Hello everyone, welcome to Liam's Lyceum. I'm your host Liam, aka Himbar, and today I'll be doing my weekly update. This is Liam's Leapings number 77, the 24th of February, 2024. Growing up, 77 was my favorite number, so it's kind of cool to hit that. Here finally. Been doing this for a while now. I'm not even sure how long. What, like year and a half, maybe? Um, but yeah, so it's just my weekly update. I'll tell you the books I finished this week, anything I wrote, which I didn't write anything. I tried to edit the last story I wrote, which I think I submitted to Die by the Sword by DMR Books. They soundly rejected it. I thought it was a fine story, I guess, but I need to go through and do some little more edits. I haven't really written much for a couple months since like the new year, essentially. Baby and job and school have slowed me down, but I did finish reading 4 books this week. The first one I finished was Enchantment by Orson Scott Card. Is rather controversial author, understandably so. But I had read a couple of his books in the past when I was, I don't know, a teenager. Um, and I enjoyed them a lot, actually. And I enjoyed this one too, Enchantment. This was a buddy read, my wife and sister in law. And it's kind of romantasy, like historical fiction, fantasy, romantasy, uh, kind of portal fantasy. There's a lot of, I don't know. It's interesting. It's like Sleeping Beauty retelling, kind of. It's interesting. So it's not bad. I didn't think it was bad, at least, but not what I would normally read by any means. But it wasn't bad. So, and then the other books. Let's see. The first one I finished after that was Masquerades by Kate Novak and Jeff Grubb. This is essentially book 4 in the Finder Stone trilogy. It's set 10 years after those books, but um, this is about Alias of Westgate and Dragonbait a bit. I really enjoyed it. It does start a little slow, but I really enjoyed it. It was very nice to be back with them. Kate Novak and Jeff Grubb only ever wrote a couple more books. I think Finder's Bane and then Timora's Luck, maybe. I'll need to read those, but I don't know if they ever got back to Alias at all. Alias is one character that I like want to use, and it's funny they have Dragonbait in like one of the 5th edition adventures. They don't have Alias, which is a darn shame in my opinion. Alias is awesome. But yeah, I like Masquerades. I'm not reading a Forgotten Realms novel as of right now, but I would like to read another one. But I'm also trying to catch up and do stuff with other books as well. So one of the other books I read was Dreams of Steel. Speaking of catch up, this is the uh, fifth Black Company book. Though I read the spin-off as well before it, Dreams of Steel. So I've read 6 Black Company books. The first 3 were just so impactful. I really like Shadow Games, and this one was fine. I think maybe it was those first 4 actually over Dreams of Steel and the Silver Spike. Maybe I like them more just because I really really like Croker as a narrator. I think he's awesome. He's one of my favorite narrators ever. And Dreams of Steel, the lady's the narrator, and then in the Silver Spike, it's Case, right? And they're both good. I just like Croker so stinking much. So a fine story. I have no clue when I'll get to the next Black Company series. I don't have any of them. But yeah, I like Cook. I got a couple more books by Cook. Um, he's pretty close to Sword and Sorcery. He's not quite there, maybe by most definitions, but. And then the 4th book I finished, which is funny. This is a book that I remember talking to like Kevin about. KXU, if anyone knows Kevin, right, then you know who I'm talking about. But Kevin, I'm talking to him in like Nico's Discord, Nico's Book Reviews Discord, back when it was just Nico's, right before it was the Wizardly Duo Discord, and now I think it's like the Wizards Enclave or something like that. When it was just Nico's, right? And Kevin was really active at the time in that Discord. I don't know if he's posted since it became the Wizardly Duo. I don't know. It's been a minute, right? But I remember talking about Barbara Hambley with him. She came to my attention several years ago because I know she was a big influence reading wise. I'm not sure about storytelling wise, but reading wise, on Brandon Sanderson. Specifically, Dragon's Bane, I think is the name of the novel, which I have, but I have like 3 copies of it somehow. But I think, pretty sure. Anyways, Maybe I just have one or two, but I haven't read that one. But I finally read The Ladies of Mandragon because it sounded interesting. It's Sunwolf and Starhawk, so it's one of those two characters that the series is named after, which I like. I'm a big fan of Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, right? And it sounded interesting, right? So Sunwolf is like one of the only guys in this book. There's like hardly any men or male characters at all. Closer to the end, you get a couple more, but it's really just a bunch of ladies, the ladies of Mandragon for the most part, right? This is actually awfully close to Sword and Sorcery as well. In fact, the way magic is handled, you could probably label this as Sword and Sorcery, and it is very focused. It gets some parts where it's a little bit more like a heroic fantasy, maybe more like in the vein of Gemmel, maybe Glenn Cook, but it's surprisingly dark, right? But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot actually. So I think I have the rest of this books. I think The Witches of Windshar and Dark Hand of Magic, I think, are the next ones. I remember getting them all a few years ago and really looking forward to reading them. All right, but finally got around to it. I'm glad I did. I'm kind of in a mood so far this year to read more books by women, and so Barbara Hambly was one I needed to try. I think this came out in '84 or so. Yeah, so enjoyable. I enjoyed it. Yes. If anyone wants a good, the premise, by the way, is these ladies, they don't have any men. They're like all imprisoned in mines, essentially. So, but they want to rid themselves of their evil sorceress dictator. And so they try to hire Sunwolf, and Sunwolf's like, no, I don't deal with wizards. And so they kidnap him and poison him. So he has to. That's the premise, essentially. And I really liked it. I think it worked great. The other books I read, I did read a little bit in The Elusive Shift. Not much, but I did make a video pertaining to that. That'll come out Wednesday if anyone cares. I did start Stargate by Andre Norton. I'm not very far in, but this book is tiny as well. I've had this one for a couple years. I read one book by Norton. It was not my favorite book ever. In fact, it was rather boring, but it was good historically, right? Like it was the first Dungeons and Dragons novel ever. Quad Keep. I read that before I started my channel here, so there's no review, but I did make a blog post about it on my blog. So yeah, Stargate. It came out in the 50s, about a gate through like space and time and like different realities, essentially. So I am enjoying it so far. But I'm, again, not that far in. I'm also over 50% of the way through this book, I think. Yeah, I'm making good progress. A Conversation in Blood. So I was thinking I needed to read something that I knew would be sword and sorcery. I mean, some of this stuff is pretty close. In fact, all of this is what you could probably call heroic fantasy or dark fantasy or whatever, but or something similar to sword and sorcery. This is very much sword and sorcery. It's Aeol Nix. I always say Aeol. I don't know how the heck Kemp wants to say the name. But it's he probably doesn't want to say it that way, but that's the way I'm saying it. And this is the third Aeol Nix novel. It's the shortest one, actually. It's the third and final one. This came out in 2017, I think. They all came out relatively in like 5 years, maybe. I think all three of them. I don't know if we're ever going to get any more. I don't know how this one ends, but I assume there's room for more still, right? So I'm looking forward to reading it or finishing it. It's good so far. Yeah, I like a sword and sorcery, and I like Kemp. His Erebus Kale books are, if not the favorites or best that I've read, one of for Forgotten Realms novels. So very much like this, because Erebus Kale's pretty darn close to sword and sorcery. It is actually one of the things that helped me get into sword and sorcery. At times, maybe it is sword and sorcery. Conversation in Blood is very much so. So I'm enjoying it. And then I did read a little bit of the Bhagavad Gita, which is a book of the Mahabharata. You know, I've read a lot of stuff, like religious texts, like the Bible, of course, Book of Mormon. Some of the Quran, not a lot. Like the Tao Te Ching and some of the writings of Confucius and stuff like that. But not any of the Mahabharata or the Bhagavad Gita in particular. So this is a book I got via the publisher, Upsala Books. So I appreciate that. I mentioned it before in another video when I got it, but I'm going to be making a video on this when I'm done with it. It'll be interesting because in some ways it's an academic book, but in other ways it's really just a religious text, right? It's scripture, essentially. So I don't think it'll take me too long to get through. I don't know. I'm not like super far. But I ordered their third book as well, Woden, and their fourth book I think just came out today when I'm recording this. Tom Shippey's edition of Eric Bright Eyes, which I have a copy of, actually. It's got a nice pulpy looking cover on it. I need to find it. But I've read one book by Haggard and the She, and I enjoyed that a lot. So I've been meaning to read Bright Eyes. I might get Shippey's version. I don't know what the heck is different about his version. I know the book is old enough that, you could probably it's probably in the public domain. You could probably publish it regardless of who you are. But let me see. I've read very little in the Book of Three with my daughters. Oh, I did read. So I forgot to mention this stuff last week, actually. I did write a new column. Hopefully that'll be out here next month. I read a short story by a certain award-winning author called The Barrow King. I really enjoyed it. We'll see when that short story comes out. That is not a published short story, though. And then New Edge. New Edge's fundraising campaign for issues 3 and 4 came out. I got like in a minor disagreement, I guess, with Nick Mamadas on Twitter about it. I don't know. It was kind of confusing. I didn't. He turned the conversation in a direction I was not expecting, but that's Twitter for you. But I need to trim my beard again. Sorry, guys. Oh, and I did start I Am Legend. I forgot. Richard Matheson, is that who wrote it? Something like that. I'm really enjoying it so far, but I'm not super far in. But I like a good vampire novel, and this hits a lot of boxes, and it's just really moody, atmospheric. I don't know. I'm enjoying it. We'll see what I think by the end, but I am enjoying it. It's one of those books I'm kind of surprised I haven't read yet. I don't have a physical copy, so I forgot to mention it until right now. But anyways, what have y'all been up to? Enjoying life? It's good, isn't it?